The Flannan Isles, 7 small, uninhabited rocks in the Outer Hebrides, 20 miles west of the Isle of Lewis, battered by the North Atlantic on every side. The largest of the rocks is called Eilean Mor, Big Rock.
In 1899, the Northern Lighthouse Board completed a 150-foot stone lighthouse on Eilean Mor. It was the most isolated automated assistance to navigation in the British Isles. 3 keepers manned it on rotating shifts. They were the only humans on the island.
The senior keeper was James Ducat, 43 years old, 30-year veteran of the Lighthouse Service, married, 4 children, trusted, disciplined.
The second keeper was Thomas Marshall, 28 years old, 6 years in service, engaged to a young woman in Stornoway, saving for his wedding.
The third keeper, on temporary assignment, was Donald MacArthur, 40 years old, a Royal Navy veteran, known for being aggressive in arguments, known for being absolutely fearless in storms.
On December 7, 1900, all 3 men were on duty on Eilean Mor. The relief ship Hesperus was scheduled to arrive on December 20th with their replacement, Joseph Moore, and supplies for the next rotation. The Hesperus was delayed by a storm. She did not arrive at Eilean Mor until December 26th, 11 days late. Approaching from the east, Captain James Harvey noticed something wrong before he reached the dock. The flag was not flying. No one was waving from the cliff. And the lighthouse lamp had not been lit. The Hesperus had passed the island the night before. Captain Harvey had watched. The light should have been visible for 40 miles. There was nothing. The relief keeper, Joseph Moore, was sent up the 160 stone steps to the lighthouse alone. The east landing was intact, calm seas, no damage. He climbed. At the top, he found the lighthouse door closed but unlocked. He pushed it open and called out. Nothing. He went inside. The kitchen clock had stopped. The fire had gone out. There were no signs of struggle. There were no signs of recent meals. In the entrance hall, Moore counted the heavy oilskin coats hanging on their pegs. There should have been 3. There were 2 missing. 1 was still hanging. Lighthouse protocol was clear. In a serious storm, all keepers wore oilskins. Always. The fact that 1 was missing meant 1 keeper had stayed inside. The fact that 2 were missing meant 2 had gone outside in heavy weather. And the fact that 1 was hanging meant a 3rd keeper had run out without it. Moore searched the island. The east landing was intact. The west landing, on the other side, was a different story. A wooden box of supplies, secured to a railway track at 108 feet above sea level, had been smashed. The iron railway itself had been wrenched out of its concrete moorings. The seas at the west landing had reached over 100 feet during the storm. A wave that high could have ripped men off the cliff. But protocol said no keeper was supposed to be on the west landing during weather like that. Why were they out there? The official Northern Lighthouse Board investigation reached a conclusion. Quote, "The keepers had gone to the west landing to secure the supplies during a storm. A freak wave had struck. They had been swept off the cliff and drowned." End quote. Case closed in 14 days. But the verdict had problems. The lighthouse log entries the official report referenced did not exist. The famous overturned chair in the kitchen, the half-eaten meal, the references to a violent storm in the days before the disappearance, none of it was in the actual logs that the Northern Lighthouse Board had on file. In 1912, a Scottish poet named Wilfred Wilson Gibson published a poem called Flannan Isles. He invented the dramatic details: the chair on the floor, the unfinished food, the candles still burning. The romantic mystery. Most of what people think they know about Eilean Mor came from a fictional poem 12 years after the fact. What we know for certain is this: the lighthouse log was last entered on December 15, 1899. The weather log noted heavy seas and wind. After that, nothing. The next entry that should have been recorded never was. And we know the Hebridean weather records confirm a fierce storm hit the islands between December 12th and December 17th. Wind gusts measured at over 100 miles per hour at the nearest manned weather station. So the storm was real. The conditions were real.
But the puzzle remains. 2 keepers in coats, 1 without. Why? In 1947, a researcher proposed that James Ducat and Thomas Marshall had gone to the West Landing in oilskins to secure equipment. A wave struck. Donald MacArthur, watching from the kitchen window, had seen them swept off. He had run out of the lighthouse without his coat to try to help. He had been swept off too.
The theory fits the physical evidence. It fits the missing coat. It fits Donald MacArthur's known character. It is today the most accepted theory among Northern Lighthouse Board historians. But it is just a theory. There is no proof.
The bodies of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur were never found. The North Atlantic between the Flannan Isles and Iceland is over 6,000 feet deep. Currents move bodies hundreds of miles. None of the 3 were ever positively identified.
Eilean Mor Lighthouse was automated in 1971. No keepers have lived on the island since. The lighthouse beam still flashes every 20 seconds. From the cliff where Donald MacArthur ran, there is nothing visible in any direction except the sea. There is no place a body could have washed up that was not already searched. There is no place 3 men could have hidden. They simply went out into the storm, and the storm took them. 124 years later, still no other answer. Subscribe to SALT Files.